everybody. I wanted to talk with you about some sample process analysis thesis statements. This is in addition to what I've already discussed with process analysis thesis statements. But for this, I wanted to go over some student sample thesis statements, talk with you about the parts of those statements, and just discuss what's good and not so good about them. This will help you as you draft your own thesis statement, your own working thesis statement for the process analysis proposal. So the first part of this document here, you should have already gone over these examples. So I'm going to move down here. So I've annotated these thesis statements, and in my annotations, I've really just identified the different parts of the thesis statement as far as their purpose. And I've just given you some notes about each of them so that you understand the positives and the negatives. So my color code up here is anything in pink is the reason or outcome part of the thesis. Anything in green is the nature of the process, and then you have the essay map here as well in purple. Just in a review of these parts, so a process analysis thesis is an assertion first about the reason for the process or what outcome the reader can expect from the process. So that's why they're doing it. So why are they doing it? What can they expect to get out of it? So you have to have that in your thesis. You have to. Now, an option is that you can try to incorporate an assertion about the nature of that process. It's not, and that is not a requirement for a directional process thesis statement. However, you can do it, and we're going to look at some examples of that. And then the last part of the thesis is what's called the essay map, or I think your book calls it the roadmap. So the roadmap or the essay map provides the reader with a list of what the essay is going to discuss, how the essay is going to support the thesis statement. And I highly recommend you incorporating an essay map. In fact, I really want you to have one for this paper, and then it'll be more optional for the other ones, just so we can get used to how they look. So I've annotated these thesis statements, and we're just going to read through them, and I'm going to give you some notes. So the first thesis statement is in 2 sentences. It says, skiing can make for the best winter pastime as long as you know a few simple guidelines and techniques before hitting the slopes. Proper equipment preparation before skiing, the basics to skiing down a mountain, and knowledge of emergency procedures on the mountain will lead to one of the best winter experiences. So this thesis statement is really a thesis statement of the reason or the outcome of the process, and then an essay map in 2 sentences. So we've got this first part that says, skiing can make for the best winter pastime as long as you know a few simple guidelines. And so that sort of has a little bit of an assertion about the nature of the process, but it's more focused on what is going to happen, the reason for the process, and why, what the reader can really get out of the process. Proper equipment preparation before skiing, the basics to skiing down a mountain, and knowledge of emergency procedures on the mountain. That is the essay map. So this presents what the student will write about in the essay. The essay map is organized by each paragraph the student is going to be drafting. However, the problem with this essay map is it's not in parallel structure. So the grammatical structures in this essay map don't fit with each other. We'll talk more about that later. You had an assignment about that already on Connect. So we'll be doing some more work with that next week. Will lead to one of the best winter experiences. So this is the outcome. So if you follow these steps, proper equipment preparation, the basics to skiing, and knowledge of emergency procedures, your outcome will be one of the best winter experiences of skiing. So that is really a more focused assertion on the outcome, or the reason for following the procedure, or the reason for following the process. Not a bad thesis statement here. Okay, B, in particular, it is essential that teachers are prepared to deal with critical bleeding situations, as these are perhaps the most life-threatening incidents. The ability to save students' lives in such a scenario comes down to the ability to identify the situation, dress the wound, and keep the students calm until medical help arrives. So this thesis statement has a very clear purpose for the nature of the process and what outcome the reader can expect from following that process. So this is a really good example of incorporating both types of assertions into the thesis claim. It also has an essay map. So let's just look at the different parts. So this first part, it is essential that teachers are prepared to deal with critical bleeding situations. That is a statement, an assertion, a claim about the nature of the process. So the student is claiming that teachers must be prepared with these situations. So the audience that the writer is directing this process toward is teachers. The ability to save students' lives in such a scenario comes down to the ability to. Okay, a lot of abilities in that statement. However, we've got a reason or outcome. So saving students' lives is like the outcome for following this process, and the process being, in our essay map, the ability to identify the situation, dress the wound, keep the students calm. So that essay map is more aligned with parallel structure than the first one. This is a really good example of a thesis statement that's heavily focused on the nature and the outcome of the process. Okay, let's look at just one more together. Let's look at a bad one, and then you guys can read the rest on your own. Okay, so let's look at E. E says, bringing a new cat home can either be a nightmare or a wonderful experience. A few simple guidelines can help put you on the right path. Okay, so there are some problems with this. First is that first sentence. So that first sentence is an assertion about the nature of the process. Bringing a new cat home can either be a nightmare or a wonderful experience. So it needs a little bit more focus. Whenever you're drafting your thesis statement, you want a singular focus in your purpose. So why are you giving us this process? A few simple guidelines can help put you on the right path. So this is the outcome statement, put you on the right path. So that also needs more focus. It's not very clear as far as the assertion that's being made about what the reader can expect from following this process. I mean, put you on the right path is pretty vague. It needs to be more straightforward and more concise. And then I really think that an essay map is lacking here. So if the student incorporated an essay map, that essay map alone will probably provide them with a little bit more focus that they need from both the assertion about the nature of the process and the assertion about the outcome. So I want you to read through the rest of these thesis statements. You have access to this document. You also have access to a clean version of this document with no notes if you wanted it for some reason. If you wanted to practice identifying them on your own. So make sure that you use this document as you draft your thesis statements.